Presidential candidate Donald Trump putting some serious distance between him and his Republican rival Jeb Bush in a new poll in the key primary state of New Hampshire. Back in July, Governor Bush was in second place and trailing Trump by only 7 percentage points. Now Bush is in fourth place. His poll numbers down to single digits. Katie Pavlich joins us, Fox News contributor, news editor for townhall.com. David Goodfriend is a former deputy staff secretary to President Bill Clinton. Good to see you both. Katie,
good morning.
Bush has lost almost half his support in New Hampshire since July. In Iowa, his support has dropped in half. What's happened to Jeb Bush? Does he have himself to blame, or is he a victim of the Trump juggernaut?
I think it's a combination of both. I think that Jeb Bush is in real trouble. You have to remember that New Hampshire was going to be Jeb Bush's bread and butter. He admitted early on in the campaign that Iowa wasn't a huge concern to him in terms of the general election. But when you look at how far he's fallen in New Hampshire, which was a place he was supposed to be popular, his politics were supposed to be more in line with people of New Hampshire, he's in fourth place. He's getting beat by Ben Carson. He's getting beat by John Kasich. And I think his biggest problem is, look, Jeb Bush is well known. It's not that people don't know who he is, what his policies are. He's just having a really hard time gaining any momentum in a state where he was supposed to be winning.
You know, David, the take on Trump was that he alienated more people than he attracted. But I looked at a recent poll. He has now reversed his negative numbers. And in a Survey USA poll out 2 days ago, Trump leads Clinton, this is a national poll, by 5 points. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, I want to wish you happy Labor Day and thank our friends in the labor movement for the 2-day weekend, child safety laws ending, and a great minimum wage. Now, as it goes for Republican politics here, the negatives of Trump as far as his perception among primary voters, I think belies what could happen in a general election. We all agree that the swing states necessary to win a general election are in the Mountain West and some in the South, like Florida. And the fact is, you have to get 45% of the Latino vote in Nevada in order to carry that state. Yeah. Donald Trump has basically blown up the Republican Party's chances of actually winning in those swing states. So I actually think what you have to ask yourself in the polling is, take out the givens. California, Texas, we all know where they're going to go in a general election. Ask yourself in the swing states, could Donald Trump prevail there? I say no. I think he's a big liability for the Republican Party.
He's winning right now.
John Fund at National Review wondered out loud in his latest column whether Trump can maintain the momentum of what he calls the medicine man show. Let's put it on the screen. His bullying, his shameless boasting, his constant inconsistency on issues, and his lack of conservative bona fides will start to weigh on him. What about that? As voters pay more attention the closer we get to the primaries, caucuses, and general election, the more seriously they may not consider him.
Well, and that's something to keep in mind. I mean, you look at history and you look at people who have been in front in the polls for significant amounts of time, but as we get closer to the election, they tend to fall out. Donald Trump certainly has that risk. And when you look at his history of being a Democrat and independent and flip-flopping on all the issues, he has that concern. But Republicans are going to be the key here. Republicans, I think, have waited far too long to hit back on Trump and his inconsistent record of conservatism. They've kind of played him off as a silly candidate who wasn't serious, and now they're losing to him and have taken too long to hit back. So I think that that's a serious concern. But yes, we have a long way to go. The first caucus is not for a while, and so there's a lot that can happen between now and January to bring Trump down and to bring other candidates like Carly Fiorina or Ben Carson back up in the polls.
You know, David, a lot of people say Trump really taps into the anger at the political establishment in Washington. And in fact, a Bush supporter and a donor of a super PAC put it this way, sort of the two sides of the Trump coin. He obviously disgusts a lot of people because he's been vile, but he's also been able to bring out what people feel about their government. Is he right?
Yes, in a sense, he's right in that Donald Trump definitely taps into a bona fide strain in American politics and thinking right now. And I think going back to your prior line of questions about his positions that might strike some Republicans as too liberal, I actually think that feeds the narrative that he doesn't fit easily into any given category, and ironically that has bolstered his support among primary voting Republicans precisely because it's outside the norm. And I think that makes the party operation very nervous. They don't really exactly know how to handle that. The fact that he signed this pledge saying, I will support whoever the nominee is, cuts both ways. It also means the Republicans will support him if he becomes the nominee. And I think we're in uncharted territory as far as regular, everyday machine party politics are concerned. This is unknown territory.
Katie, real quickly, Trump seems to be getting his highest level of support from people least likely to actually vote. That's a problem.
That is a real problem because if they're not going to show up the polls to really vote for him, not just to take polls and surveys, then he's not going to win. And so looking at the people who are actually supporting Donald Trump is important, and looking at the people who are supporting other candidates and getting them out to the polls to cast their votes in a primary is what's important here. One final point. I want to point out, too, that none of the GOP candidates are under federal investigation by the FBI, and that is something that Republicans have going for them over Hillary Clinton.
You had to point that out, didn't you? We're going to actually...
It's a pretty important point.
You know what? Fair and balanced, we're actually going to be tackling that in another segment very shortly, so stay tuned for that. Katie and David, good to see you both. Happy Labor Day.
Thank you.
Happy Labor Day.
Yes, very soon we'll be tackling that. Hillary Clinton's email controversy staying front and center. How she's responding to new details surfacing about paying a State Department staffer to maintain her private email server.